Welcome to the deep dive. You send us your sources, and we're here to, well, pull out the key insights, get you up to speed quickly.
That's the idea.
And today we're really digging into something fascinating, a text called Philosophia Azteca.txt. We're zoning in on Aztec philosophy, specifically around the time of the conquests. This deep dive is for you, our listener.
And our mission really is to unpack the big philosophical questions the Aztecs were grappling with. What were their core concerns? What was their unique angle on those fundamental human mysteries?
Exactly. And right away, one idea just jumps out, this question of how can we maintain equilibrium while we walk on the slippery earth?
That phrase, slippery earth, is so evocative.
It really is. Tells you so much about how they saw, well, existence itself. And our main source material here, these excerpts, they really explore that thinking.
Yeah, and it's good to remember this understanding isn't just from this one text. Scholars use a whole range of things. They're amazing pictorial histories, accounts from conquistadors.
Right, even missionary records like Sahagum's work, which is incredibly detailed.
Insights from contemporary indigenous communities, too. It's a really rich picture they piece together.
Okay, so this slippery earth idea, the text really emphasizes that Aztec philosophy was, at its heart, pragmatic.
Very much so. It wasn't about abstract truth-seeking in like a vacuum. It was about finding real, workable answers to the challenges of living.
The central problem, like you said, was keeping your balance on that slippery earth. There's that Nahuatl proverb,
Tlalahui, Tlapetskahui in Tlatipak. It captures that feeling perfectly, that inherent instability. The ground could always shift.
so less what is truth and more, how do we walk this path? Is that a fair way to put it?
I think that's a great way to frame it. It's more about finding your way, pathfinding, rather than just defining absolute truth. A practical guide for life's wobbles.
Okay, let's get to the core of their worldview then, this concept, Teotl. The text introduces it as like the central thing.
The fundamental reality. A single, dynamic, sacred energy. Always generating itself. Always renewing itself.
That's pretty mind-bending. It's not just a god, it's the actual stuff everything is made of.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The whole cosmos, everything in it, was seen as being made of and ultimately being Teotl. Not a separate creator, but the energy itself.
Wow, okay. And that helps explain the huge number of gods they seem to have, right?
Exactly. The text clarifies this really well. Those weren't seen as totally separate entities. They were more like different facets or manifestations of the one Teotl.
Like light through a prism showing different colors, but it's all still light.
That's a perfect analogy. The gods were Teotl seen through the prism of human vision, showing different aspects of that single ultimate reality.
And Teotl wasn't static either. The text stresses it's always in process, always becoming.
Absolutely key. It's about flow, change, transformation. The text even suggests thinking of it like a verb teolizing, the doing of reality, not just the being.
Like a river, it is water, but its essence is flowing.
Precisely. Constant movement, constant becoming. That dynamic quality is fundamental.
Okay, so if everything is ultimately one dynamic thing, Teotl, how did they account for all the opposites we see? Life and death, order and chaos. The text mentions polar dialectical monism. Sounds heavy.
It does sound jargony. Let's break it down. Monism means it's ultimately one thing, Teotl. Polar dialectical means this unity expresses itself through the constant interplay, the back and forth of complementary opposites.
Like day and night, or male and female.
Exactly. Life, death, order, disorder, light, dark. They saw these not as locked in eternal combat, but as necessary parts of a cycle, constantly alternating, defining each other.
The text mentions those amazing two-faced masks, right? From Tlatelolco, one side life, the other death.
Yes, fantastic visual for it. Life and death aren't enemies. They're two sides of the same coin, totally interconnected.
Which is quite different from, say, Zoroastrianism, where it's good versus evil and good eventually wins.
Right. The Aztecs saw these polarities as an endless dance, a continuous cycle, not a war with a final winner. Death wasn't inherently bad. It was just part of the process.
So this world we experience, the seemingly solid one, they saw it as, what, the house of paintings created by Teotl? That's quite poetic.
It really is beautiful. The PROMOÇÁO, the wise ones, used this imagery. Akhenaten called Earth the house of paintings. Giacomo said something similar.
His house is here in the midst of the paintings, yeah. And that poem by Nezahualcóyotl about life being in Teotl's painting book and eventually erased.
Incredibly powerful stuff. It really hits home that sense of impermanence, of things being fleeting.
Other poets mentioned in the text, like Tochiwitz and Koyolchuki, also talked about life being dreamlike, right? Just a brief moment.
Yes, this dreamlike quality comes up often. Life is like a dream we awaken from, or flowers that bloom and quickly fade.
But, and this seems really important, the text is clear this isn't saying the world isn't real. It's not like an illusion in that sense.
Exactly. It's crucial. It's an epistemological point about our knowledge and perception, not an ontological one about reality itself.
So it's about how we see things. That we maybe don't grasp Teotl's true nature because it wears these disguises, these nahas.
Precisely. The illusion is, in our limited human viewpoint, our tendency to see the separate paintings instead of the single artist, Teotl, behind them all.
Yeah.
We mistake the disguise for the reality. The world is real. Our understanding is often partial or flawed.
Okay, so if the world is this shifting, slippery earth, how did they think we could find any stability? How do we find that balance?
Through wisdom. That was the answer.
Wisdom, but not just book smarts, right? The text says it was more dynamic.
Yes, very much about how you live, how you conduct yourself. It's knowing how to live in balance, not just knowing that certain facts are true, practical wisdom.
And the way to get this wisdom was by becoming well-rooted, meltilessly, rooted in Tilak.
That's it. Finding your anchor in that fundamental reality. And this wisdom, Tamanlisli, had like 4 aspects according to the text.
Okay, what were they?
First, the practical skill of maintaining balance in your life. Second, actively participating in their way of life, their traditions.
Being part of the community, keeping things going.
Third, playing your part in cosmic regeneration through rituals, right living. And fourth, knowing and performing those rituals correctly.
It sounds very involved, like you have a real role to play. The text mentioned a participatory universe.
Yes, this idea that human actions weren't just personal, they actually influenced the cosmos, and the cosmos influenced humans, a kind of mutual relationship.
So our actions have real weight, cosmically speaking. They could help maintain balance or, well, mess things up.
That's the sense you get, a deep feeling of interconnectedness and responsibility.
Now, where did they think this wisdom, this connection to Teotl, actually happened in us? Not the brain, apparently.
No, the text points squarely to the heart, Yololo. That was considered the organ for truly knowing Teotl.
The heart. Why the heart?
Its position, sort of between pure reason and raw passion, was seen as allowing for a more balanced, holistic kind of understanding. They even talked about a Teotlized heart, Teotl.
A heart filled with Teotl's energy.
Exactly, a heart aligned with that sacred energy. And it gets cooler. The word for heart, Teotl, is related to the word for movement, Allen.
Ah, connecting back to Teotl as movement, as dynamic energy.
Precisely. So Teotlized heart is one that moves, that beats in sync with Teotl, with the cosmos itself. That's where genuine knowing came from.
Wow. Okay. Another concept that seemed really central was flower and song. In Zokil, in Qcutl. This wasn't just about pretty art, was it?
Not at all. It was profound. Flower and song was their term for artistic creation, poetry, music, painting, writing, dance. And it was seen as a primary way to, well, reveal and present Teotl.
So art had a job to do, beyond just aesthetics.
A crucial job. It was deeply tied to morality, to knowledge. It wasn't just for looking at, it was a way of knowing and connecting with the sacred.
And the text links flower and song to having that ritually prepared, balanced heart, symbolized by Quetzalcoatl.
Yes, the feathered serpent, that powerful image combining earth and sky, symbolizing that achieved balance. A heart capable of producing true flower and song was a balanced heart.
So becoming wise, becoming knowledgeable, actually required dedication to art, to flower and song.
It seems so. Engaging in artistic creation wasn't just a pastime. It was seen as a way to shape your heart, to bring it closer to Teotl, to cultivate that wisdom.
Which leads to the idea that for the Aztecs, things we might separate like value, morality, beauty were all tangled up together.
Absolutely interconnected. The ultimate value for humans was achieving balance and purity, because those were seen as reflecting Teotl's own nature.
So morality was about promoting that balance and purity.
Yes, avoiding imbalance and impurity. The text mentions in Quetzalcoatl in Yesyatl what is adequate for and assimilable by humans. Morally good actions were those that fit, that maintain this equilibrium.
And moderation was key, right? That proverb about the middle path being good.
Tlacoquali in Monaki, the good of the middle is necessary. Avoiding extremes was crucial for balance. Immoral actions were seen as causing tatlakali damage, or tlazali, pollution, impurity.
Disrupting the balance. And this was focused on this life, wasn't it? Consequences happened here on Earth.
Largely, yes. Their ethics seem very grounded in earthly existence and maintaining harmony within it.
Even their education aimed at this. developing a wise face and a strong, humanized heart.
Exactly. Tlacocopacuelvic, next Clamakelisli education, was about forming the person capable of navigating the slippery earth. The description of the Flamatini, the wise person, is all about this inner balance and outward perception.
And the ideal person, the wise face and good heart, was compared to precious things, jade, turquoise, quetzal feathers.
The symbols of that achieved purity and balance. And if you lost that balance, there were rituals, like penitence, neomelawisli, to help restore it.
And beauty aesthetics loops back into this too. Beautiful art wasn't just nice to look at.
It was art that genuinely presented Teotl, that contributed to cosmic balance, that came from a Teotlized heart, and that positively influenced the viewer, helping them towards balance. It all fits together.
So, wrapping this up, it's really striking how Aztec philosophy, while ancient, offers this incredibly well-integrated and practical way to think about life's uncertainties.
Definitely. It's all geared towards achieving balance and purity, rooted in this deep sense of an interconnected reality, Teotl.
And that central question never really went away. How can we maintain equilibrium on the slippery earth?
Right.
They built this whole intricate system, metaphysics, knowledge, ethics, art, to answer it.
It wasn't compartmentalized. It was all one project, really, highlighting the richness, the complexity of Nahua thought.
It really makes you pause and consider, doesn't it, how their focus on balance, on being rooted, on interconnectedness, how that might speak to us today.
Which leaves us with a thought for you, our listener, something to mull over. Considering this Aztec idea of the world as a dynamic, ever-shifting house of paintings, how might looking at things that way, even metaphorically, change how you understand reality and maybe your own place within it all?
That's a deep one to end on. Definitely food for thought. Thank you so much for joining us in this deep dive.
Guys, see you in another podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.